Hi guys, this is Dundee, Texas, and this is where my mom grew up. What you see behind me is the school that my mom went to in the first grade, at least. I don't know how long she went there. This town was built in 1900, so I would guess that school's probably 110 years old. The top of it is crashed in, and obviously no one's going to school there anymore. But this was her school, and she's always told me that she remembers going there. She's not quite a while ago. From what I understand is over there up on that hill, on the left side and on the right side are storm shelters of some sort. I don't really understand yet, but I guess we'll see with our drone. But anyway, this was my mom's school. This is the Dundee, probably the only school. There was probably not enough people here to have more than one school, but that's the school.
All of these ghost towns I keep traveling through, all of these traffic signs and lonesome bars blindsiding me, and I swear I can be better. I could be more to you, but there are things that lie in my path that I just have to do. If you've got visions of the past, let them fall.
This right behind me is the Methodist Church. No telling how long it's been there, maybe 120 years or more. If you look behind the Methodist Church, back there, is the Baptist Church. And I think, I'm not the historian on all this, but I know enough to get myself in trouble. Both sides of my family, my mother's family, lived here, and they married each other. And I'm sure that was probably common back in the 1900s. That Baptist church, one side of my family went to, and the Methodist church, the other side of my family went to. I'm pretty sure. I don't know which side went to which, but this is the church that we have the service on Memorial Day weekend. And in this church, we have a service, and we give money to take care of the cemetery during the year, since there's really nobody here to do it. And then on around back there, there's a big barn-like area where people bring way too much food, and we eat after that, and then most people go back home. But anyway, this is the church, like I said, and then we should be able to see the Baptist church behind it when we drone.
You down, they'll come back to you someday. And I found myself attached to this railroad track, but I'll come back to you someday. To you, to you. You're all laughing in the garden and I'm lost somewhere in your mind. If you've got visions of the past.
Behind me you see the Dundee drugstore. It's been here forever. I don't know how long. Again, over 100 years. The other day when I knew Jeff and I were going to come out here and record this area, I went to eBay because I wanted to see what I could find on eBay about this area. And first thing I found was this little stamp. And this little stamp says M.J. Barnes, druggist, Dundee, Texas. And on the back it says M.J. Barnes. My mother's father's last name was Barnes. And he lived in that yellow house his whole life. And I never met him, ever. Well, when I told my mom that I found this, I knew it was my family because of the name. And this town's too small for it not to be. And after I looked it up, this is my great uncle, John Barnes, and he was a druggist. And there's a real good possibility that he used this stamp right there in that drugstore 100 years ago. John Barnes.
Follow you down, for they'll come back to you someday. And I found myself attached to this railroad track, but I'll come back to you someday.
The house behind me that you can barely see, which has just happened recently in the last 5 years, I could see the house, but that house is where my great-grandfather lived. My mom called them Mamaw and Keki, and their last name was Kelsey. He was county commissioner or some big dog in this county when he lived here. And I actually remember about 58 years ago being in that house with my aunt and my mom and my great-grandmother and my great-grandfather. And it's still standing, but I don't know for how long. There's a lot of rattlesnakes in there, or we would get closer, but we don't think we're going to do it. This is a cemetery, Dundee Cemetery. Dundee Cemetery, Mom. Dundee Cemetery. I always say Dundee. My mother makes fun of me. It's Dundee. Dundee, Mom. This is why we do this, guys. Turning 60 is kind of weird, and that's what's happening to me this year, and I kind of wanted to do this. I felt like I needed to do this because of that, for some reason. This marker right here is my grandfather, who I never met. He lived here until 1988. He passed away. But like I said, I never met him. He's my mother's father. His name, they called him BL, but his name was Barber. I probably mispronounced that. My mother's name is Barbara. Right next to him is his brother. His brother is M.J. Barnes. And if you remember the story earlier, this little druggist stamp belonged to John Barnes. He passed away in 1978. He was born in 1909. He was my mother's uncle, or my great uncle. This is Essie L. Barnes. She was born in 1875 and she passed away in 1958, which was a year after I was born. This would be my great grandmother, and I never met her or any of these Barnes family. Okay, this is my great grandfather, and his name was Barber L. Barnes, which is also B.L. So my grandfather and my great-grandfather, I believe, had the same name. One went by B.L., one went by Barber. And this was my great-grandmother. And this is my mother's side of the family. This is the Kelseys. This is Mama and Keki. Her name was Jewel, his name was Roy. She died in 1976, he passed away in 1963. These are my grandmother's parents. They are my great-grandparents. This is the man and woman that lived in the house that we droned a while ago that we couldn't get to. This is the man that was county commissioner, and the Kelseys are a big part of my life. In fact, it's my little brother's middle name is Kelsey. Odd to me, but probably very common back then, was people had children that didn't live and they didn't ever name them, I suppose. So I don't know who this child belonged to. More than likely my great-grandparents. I apologize to these Kelseys because I don't know who they belong. I mean, they're either their brother and sisters, or I don't know who, but Goldman B was born in 1873, and he died in 1948. Hattie P was born in 1879 and passed away in 1935. So these Kelseys and those Kelseys belong together in some way. These graves belong to the Dragoos. I always thought that Dragoo was the coolest last name, maybe beside Weed, that I knew of. Edna Dragoo was my grandmother's sister. She passed away just 2 years ago. I actually saw her a couple years ago. John Dragoo was a great uncle. So this family is huge in our family. Kathy Dragoo is the daughter, and she's still here, and she will actually be here tomorrow. The last one here is something that really changed my life. This was Ronnie Dragoo. A while ago, I showed you John and Edna. This was their son, and he was born in 1950. He was 7 years older than me. And in 1967, he was 17 years old, and from what I remember, he was killed in a car crash. And nobody 17 years old should be killed in a car crash. And I remember the funeral. It was probably the first time I ever really kind of knew what death was. I didn't like it at all. He was too young to go. But anyway, Ronnie has a brother, Johnny. Johnny's still alive and lives in Texas somewhere, I think. But anyway, rest in peace, Ronnie.
Walk